Welcome to the Couch Time Podcast, where we give you tools to connect with your kid and point them to Jesus. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Josh.
Florence Boy's joining you this morning. It's going to be good. All right, so here's the deal. Every once in a while, we want to give you parents an episode where we specifically focus on the topic of technology. So what kids are using, what sort of trending, what things that you might need to be aware of as parents. And so that's this episode. That's what we're going to do. And we have another one coming up in a few weeks as well. But it was interesting. Last night after youth, I went to Culver's, which good night. Their cheese curds are incredible, with some students. And I knew I had this podcast coming up in the morning. So I just asked them, I posited the question, what internet thing? So that would be social media, anything on the internet, what thing do they spend their most time on that consumes the most time for them?
Yep.
And I was fascinated because the answer they gave me surprised me initially, and then as I thought about it, I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But their answer, almost unequivocally, there were about 10 kids, some of them it wasn't, but most, they said the thing that they spend the most time on was YouTube.
Dun, dun, dun.
And so after 15 years, YouTube has been around since 2005. That when they sort of in their own mind calculated it wasn't Instagram, it wasn't Snapchat, it wasn't TikTok, it was YouTube. And that was interesting. Even some kids had deleted TikTok off of their phones, or maybe their parents weren't letting them use it. One girl specifically was like, it has the ability to ruin my life and with the amount of time I waste, so I just took it off my phone.
Yeah.
But I still watch a lot of YouTube. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Is YouTube, because I think that website has become so ingrained with a part of our day-to-day lives. We use it as a new homeowner to look up how to
100%.
Install anything and everything.
Yes.
I watch sports on YouTube. Kids grow up. There are so many kids channels on YouTube. It's almost universal.
Yeah.
But specifically what I see is that Gen Z, so kids who are middle school, high school, they're in that Gen Z category, love YouTube, and it is extremely appealing to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to talk about is, why is YouTube so appealing to Gen Z? Some of the dangers of YouTube, things that you as parents can do to cultivate a healthy relationship that students can have with YouTube, and then how we can what are some positives about YouTube. So that's what we're going to roll through today. And so I want to start with why YouTube. Actually, you know what I want to do before we get going?
Yeah.
Josh, I want to ask you a question. I'll give you my answer. I want you to give parents, what is one YouTube channel you watch that maybe they've never heard of that is good? If you need to think about it, I can give you my answer, but I don't.
Grace Students channel.
What is that, Josh?
YouTube.com/Grace Students. No. Yeah, let me think about that for a second. You give yours, and I'll scroll through mine.
Okay, one of my favorite YouTube channels that I'm almost positive no one else will like is called Sam Holmes Sailing. So what it is, there's this dude named Sam Holmes, and he sails. He has a 26-foot sailboat, and all he does is sail. His YouTube channel, it's not highly edited. It's just a vlog of him sailing. So one time he sailed from Los Angeles out to Hawaii.
Yes.
And then this past summer during COVID, he sailed from Florida up to Maine and then back down to Virginia. And so each episode is just a tale of his escapades, constantly having to fix his boat, if a storm comes up, if he goes and visits a lighthouse. It's excellent. So that's one. Here's a bonus one. I love the Civil War, and I love Gettysburg National Park, though I've never been there. However, Gettysburg National Park has a YouTube channel.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
That's amazing.
And it's pretty good. And they film the tours that they give. So I can watch. So I have a favorite tour guide at Gettysburg National Park. His name's Ranger Matt Atkinson. And so I watch his talks and his tours, and he's excellent. He has sort of this, I love his, he's got this excellent Southern accent. He doesn't say Gettysburg like a Yankee like me. He says Gettysburg. And
Gettysburg.
Yep. It's great. So I really like those are 2 channels. I also watch a lot of disc golf on YouTube. Do you have one for us?
So I was just scrolling through the ones I'm subscribed to, and I'm like, man, these are all like tech or video ones or The Voice Global, Voice UK. I like The Voice.
Channel, don't you have like one that's like specifically for church technology?
Yeah, Pro Church Tools.
Church Tools.
Love that one.
That's how this podcast gets made.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I follow, I think it said 175 channels.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So I don't know if like any of these would. Some of these are like other student ministries and things, but like I don't know that there's one that's like, oh my goodness, you've never heard of this. And it's so I don't think it's as fun as yours.
That's fine. I put you on the spot. I gave the people too, and that was for free.
It's great.
All right, here's what I want to do. I want to talk about why is YouTube so appealing to Gen Z? So, Josh, why don't you give me one? Why do you think it is that our students, middle schoolers and high school, maybe specifically middle schoolers, why do they love YouTube?
Yeah, I think they love the content that's on there. So it's just super appealing. It's thinking about some of the conversations I've had with some students, like so one of the things that's really helpful is they can latch on to a specific YouTuber.
Yes.
And so like I've heard students be like, yeah, I want to be a professional YouTuber. And I think because they're able to see this person, there's this persona that gets created. They just latch onto that person, and to be able to watch their stuff, whether it's the way they talk about whatever the thing is that they talk about, whether it's doing, sometimes it's like the stunts that they do or the pranks they pull or whatever it is. Like it's just super amusing, and it's either aspirational, like, ooh, I want to be like that, or it's just straight up funny and entertaining.
Yes.
So I think just the content on there is just super appealing, and the whole like attaching themselves to like a specific YouTuber.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
That's great. I think so related to that, I mean, this is why YouTube is appealing to all of us, but YouTube is really good at holding our attention.
Yes.
And they're masterful with their algorithm and even just what they recommend. Like when I watch a sailing video, it begins to recommend other sailing videos. Mm-hmm. It recommends like van life videos. Yep. I'm like, I have no interest in that, but the YouTube thinks I do.
Yes.
And so they are always just fishing to keep your attention.
And they have psychologists on staff to like, their whole mission is to keep you on YouTube. So yeah.
And this kind of freaked me out last night, and I can link this article in the show notes because I think it would be helpful for you as parents to read it. But it's the 20 most popular YouTubers.
Yes.
So these people have millions and millions of subscribers. Right. Out of the 20, I think I had heard of 2 of them. I think it was Mr. Beast and PewDiePie.
Yep.
But the other 18, I'd never seen even a video. It had never popped up even on my YouTube. Why?
Super curious.
My algorithm doesn't match.
Yeah.
YouTube's not trying to link me up with the most popular YouTube people. They're trying to link me up with what I'm interested in, what I'm already watching.
Yes.
And you know what? It works.
Yep. It really does. It does.
And so they're really good at keeping us, holding our attention. That's where the autoplay function is really, really good. You just keep watching. It's why we keep seeing other video options and recommendations. Even just, I think, too, what draws us in and is attractive is they give us bite-sized videos. So they're like, from what I see, most YouTube videos are 5 to 12 minutes long, whereas like Netflix is 30 to 60.
Right.
Movies are an hour and a half to 3 hours long.
Right.
So it's just you keep going with these bite-sized things, and it keeps stringing you along.
Yeah.
So
I would even say too, so previous job, used to work at a video production company,
Oh,
so
yeah.
really know a lot about YouTube. But one of the things we would always tell clients is like, you have to get your video on YouTube because it is the #2 search engine on the internet.
It's crazy.
And so like, I think another reason, going back to the content a little bit, is a lot of times students and people in general will search, what is sort of questions. So if they want to find out information about how something works, what something is, to just get more information on something because they're confused about something, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, then almost like how we would go to an encyclopedia before or something like that, that's what students will go on YouTube for so many times, and that can also get them into a lot of trouble. So, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Yep, that's great. I think I want to revisit YouTube stars. I think that's a big, just a big, and some quick points. And I highly recommend, I'll mention it again, there's an organization called axis.org,
Yes.
AXIS. It is well worth, they have a family subscription plan where they give you parents sort of a synopsis of different topics you need to know. And they have one on YouTube stars. And they make some really, really good points about why YouTube stars are particularly draw in students.
Yeah.
A couple of the reasons that you mentioned this, they're relatable.
Yeah.
But I think this was interesting, and they made the point that YouTube stars oftentimes are the extreme versions of the type of person that students aspire to be.
Right.
So she's really pretty, and she does makeup. Well, I kind of want to aspire to be that. So.
Right.
Or he's really good at this video game.
Yep.
Like when I looked at the top 20 YouTube personalities, like half of them were YouTube guys who were like killing it at Minecraft.
Right.
I aspire to be that.
Right.
So I'm going to watch it. Right.
Yep.
Or even just like this guy just fought in a boxing match that had Jake Paul.
Jake Paul, yeah.
He just is an extreme version of sort of this brash, quote unquote self-confident human that does crazy things.
Yep.
Kids like that.
Yep.
Why? Because it's an extreme version of who they deep down aspire to be.
100%.
And sometimes those role models are good, sometimes they're not. And so I think that's really interesting. But also students think they can become YouTube stars.
That's very true.
And so it's like when I was a kid, I wanted to pitch for the Cleveland Indians. I think more kids didn't come close, but more kids, more so than wanting to do that or become an astronaut, want to become a YouTube star.
For sure.
And so there's also good articles on how the odds of that happening are just as likely as your child making it to the NBA, and how there's actually an industry behind creating YouTube stars, and there is a business, and it's not just so simple as posting a video. So we can link some of those as well, but there's a danger to that as well. Not that we want to put out or squash a child's ambition or wanting to be creative.
Totally. Because and we'll get to this more, but it could be a great creative outlet for your student, 100%. But to kind of marry that with reality, there is like a lot of work that would go into making actually making a full-time living on YouTube. That would be it's highly unlikely, but also if you would even like go to like the mental health and the spiritual health of these YouTube stars, it's not good. So there's just a lot of things to think about with that.
Yeah. So what else? Any other reasons you see or think, Josh, why it's appealing to students?
I think just video, the platform, the thing that it is a video platform is huge.
Yes.
Like we love us some video, especially students. It's entertaining, it's engaging, especially the way most people make videos now. It grabs your attention so well, and especially some of these stars, they're probably their top skill isn't creating content that's helpful or good. It's getting attention. That is their top skill. And so, that's, again, it's video. They love it. And it's engaging. Something sometimes you can share with each other, with your friends. But yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the big things.
Okay, last one I could think of, maybe you have one more, is that YouTube is a cultural aggregation. So here's what I mean by this. It's like my grandparents, if they wanted to figure out what was going on, if they wanted to be in the know, they read the newspaper. My dad, if he wants to know what's going on in the world, he watches CNN and Fox News or NBC News Tonight, right? Me, I look at Twitter. I've been off Twitter for 2 weeks. I feel like I have no idea what's going on in the world. I feel totally in the dark. It's both really liberating and I feel anxious. Anyway, so for Gen Z, it's largely YouTube.
Totally.
It's their pulse on what's going on with culture and in the world. So if they want to know what's happening, they go to YouTube. So yeah. Any other ones?
I think those are some of the big ones. What do you think some of the dangers of YouTube are?
Yeah, I think
like just to kind of recap.
I don't even think we need to spend a ton of time. It's like, man, it is so like it's addictive.
Yeah,
and that's obvious. But like I talked about earlier, I mean, they're really good at stringing us along. And it's like, oh my goodness, where did my 2 hours go? I was just watching 12-minute videos for sailing videos for forever. So for me, it's a danger. It's like I spend time on that instead of time with my wife. I spend time on that instead of time with the Word. I spend time on that instead of mowing my lawn. Like it can become just this wormhole.
For sure.
What about you?
And I mean, the comments section, 100%. Like, I think the comment section on any social media platform can just bring out the absolute worst in people. Because it is so easy to type a response, whether you're trolling or whether like just trying to pick a fight, or you're actually reacting to something. It can just be a really nasty place to be, and to read those things, whether it's on your own YouTube channel or on ones you follow.
Love it. Yep. It can be a bad spot. I think too, obviously there's the potential for explicit or inappropriate content, of course. And so YouTube is sort of monitored, it's sort of self-monitored. It's really hard they allow for a certain amount of inappropriate content. And so a lot of people, I mean, there's countless stories of watching innocent things and then something inappropriate comes up, or even a video is recommended that you're like, oh my goodness, what? Like, I was watching this, but you're recommending this. So that absolutely happens. And so that can definitely be a danger with YouTube. So
yeah, that's good.
It's addictive. The comment section is bad. It can waste time, and it can just be a place for explicit or inappropriate content that we don't want kids to be watching. So with all that said, what are some things here's the deal. We want to give you just some tools, things you can be thinking through in terms of how can you allow for your child, for student, to have freedom and to enjoy YouTube while also keeping them safe and not wasting too much of their time. So I'm going to give you just a couple quick hits, things that you guys can do. But I think before I get into them, one important point, and I've read this, YouTube is one of the hardest places for a parent to have absolute control, absolute monitoring over. Like if a kid wants to, they can create a new YouTube account and easily log out of yours, log onto theirs, be without sort of any of the content restraints. So there's ways you can go back into your internet search history and see that, but you might not see it immediately. They can easily switch in and out, and you just have no idea what they're watching. So it can be tricky. But these are some ways we think that you can help, not just like keep away from the dangerous things, but leverage YouTube in a good way for you and your family. I'll start. Number one, I put talk and watch.
It's great.
So it's obvious, but it's important. Here's the reality. I love talking to other people about what I'm watching on YouTube. Like I share with Emily about what I'm learning about sailing and Civil War and who won the latest disc golf tournament. There's a good chance your kids do too. Like your kids might want to share with you like what the crazy thing Mr. Beast just did. And if you ask them. So I think so long as the content isn't nefarious that they're
Right.
watching, they're going to want to share with you what's going on. And I
For
think that's a
sure.
good way for you as a parent to just be in their world.
Yeah.
Um,
And ask open-ended questions like,
Yep.
so why was that funny? Why was that cool? Tell me about this guy. What do you know about him? How did she get started? Like, as many like almost like interview your kid about the YouTube video or channel that they're watching. Like, and don't like come down on them. Just like try to draw them out. Yeah, I love that.
Yep. That's great.
I think another one that's really helpful that I do on my YouTube account is just turn on restricted mode. Hides a lot of, and again, not everything, but it is your best shot at hiding a lot of the more explicit things. And so, again, this is something I personally do. I think it's really helpful, and it'll kind of cut through a lot of clutter for sure.
Yep. All right. This is one I need to do, and then it sounds like Josh does really well, but
Or overdoes.
or overdoes it. But I think Access gave this recommendation, and is that subscriptions are helpful.
For sure.
So YouTube stars are always saying like and subscribe. I agree. So for me, I'm subscribed to like 5 channels. And so basically I'm
good.
at the whim
Yeah.
of whatever is being recommended to me instead of what I can actually pick.
Got it.
So what you're able to do is you're subscribed, and
Yep.
anytime someone from a channel you like,
Yeah.
it gives you certainly not complete control, but at
Right.
least it gives you a roadmap for what you want to watch. If I'm subscribed to these 20 channels, I'm going to watch what's there
Yeah.
instead of something that I randomly pops up on my video.
Yep.
What's recommended.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
it gives you a little bit more control, a little bit more personally what you can curate what you actually want to watch instead of what YouTube algorithm wants you to watch.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's good. I think another one is turn off autoplay. That's a dangerous tool. So if you can just turn that off, because I know Netflix does this. I know Amazon Prime does this. Like, video services do this, where it's just once your video stops, there's another one that comes up.
Yep.
And so it's just really helpful to be intentional with what you watch instead of letting YouTube just tell you, oh, here's the next one, here's the next one. It's just a dangerous thing, and especially for the time wasting.
Yep. All right. So speaking of time wasting, this is applicable to like any app.
Yeah.
But I recommend like delete YouTube from your phone.
Right.
You can restrict, like maybe you put YouTube is only allowed on your kid's Chromebook. So if you allow like an hour on the Chromebook, they can use that time on YouTube if they want, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I think limiting how many devices YouTube is available on is really helpful. That'll give you some control.
Yep.
I think even fasting from YouTube, I am 6 hours into a YouTube fast.
That's amazing.
I felt like totally convicted last night preparing for this.
Oh, wow. That's
and
great.
yeah, my morning was much better. It was much
Hey.
more focused, and yeah, I had like that like itch of like, oh, gosh, I want to watch like the news on YouTube or whatever this morning and go to my but didn't do it. But I think it's helpful to just do a little bit of a fast, do a little bit of a cleanse.
Yeah.
Take a break from it for an extended period of time beyond just 6 hours.
For sure.
So I'm going to go for a week, see how it's doing.
Yep.
I'm actually, maybe we cut this out. I'm not sure, but I've tried doing like total digital detoxes.
Yeah.
And it's not worked for me. And now I'm stacking. So I've been off Twitter for 2 weeks, and now that's normal.
So cold turkey's not helpful, but maybe.
So I'm trying this. So I've been off. 2 weeks ago, every social media app, no internet, no internet restrictions.
Right.
I've been off Twitter for 2 weeks. Now that feels normal. Now I'm starting YouTube. Now I'm trying like a slow build.
I like that.
See how that goes.
That might be helpful.
Check back in a week. Okay.
I think the last one is, and I think this is going to be helpful on a number of different fronts, but just the recommendation of like not having devices in bedrooms, especially at night.
Yep.
So a thing that is really helpful is to keep devices in rooms that are just kind of accessible to people, like you're gonna walk by or something like that. I know that was a thing for me growing up, and I think that's something we're gonna try to implement more and more as my daughter gets older. But especially no devices in the bedroom at night. One, just for the sake of not of eliminating opportunities for sin. The other piece is your kids really need sleep, especially at this stage of life. Like I hear all the time, "Yeah, I was up till 1 a.m. or I was up till 2 a.m." I'm like, dude, this is not good for humans in general, but especially for middle school and high schoolers, just where they are developmentally. Like they need them some sleep. They are developing and growing, and so removing that temptation and letting the bedroom be a place to sleep is a really good thing.
Yep, it's a big one. If you haven't done it, I strongly consider it. It's kind of walking back your access to students' ability to have devices in the bedroom. I think is huge at night.
Yeah.
All right, here's some. We're gonna leave you with just some ways to redeem YouTube, or
Yes.
just some positive things. I think YouTube is not inherently evil.
No, I love YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube's great. I agree. So, number one, there are some awesome channels out there that
100%.
there's not just things and content that it's like Minecraft or whatever, but there are really some great resources. One of my favorite ones is the Bible Project. They're a YouTube-based channel that they've also got a podcast that's interesting. But they've got. I will watch a Bible Project. Like I started reading 1 Corinthians. I watch the Bible Project video on 1 Corinthians. They give me a synopsis of the major themes and what's going on. So those guys do a good job, and it's visual, which I think students love.
Totally.
Like their artwork and how they depict the Bible is beautifully done.
Yep.
So
fun fact, John Collins, who is one of the Bible Project people, used to be
illustrator.
he's one of the explainer guys, but like he is one of the former founders of the company I used to work for. So anyways, fun fact.
Sweet.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of again, all of these recommendations. Like there's some videos that's like maybe we don't agree with everything, but by and large these are pretty good channels. Desiring God has a lot. Again, Grace KY or the Grace Students channel is one you should subscribe to and like videos on. And then, man, I'm like looking through some of these. I really like. I think Desiring God. Pastor Landon is another one who's kind of funny. But he just talks about. He's got a bunch of those kind of like explainer videos, like Bible overview sort of things on his channel. I think are pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep, it's great. Another thing we can do is just watch things together on YouTube, have fun. Like Emily and I watch documentaries on YouTube,
right?
And that's really fun. So there's different things. Like if your student has an interest, if you've got an interest, you can watch things on YouTube together, just like you do with Netflix.
Exactly.
So I think that, like what I wrote down, YouTube is fun, and that's okay, and that's good. YouTube can be funny, and that's okay, and that's good.
Yes.
And
it can be a great place to learn. Like I said, number 2 search engine on the on the internet. So if there's something you guys are curious, maybe you're wanting to do a project together. YouTube a video, like search for a video on YouTube, and then watch it together, and then do something with that. There's that channel I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Dude Perfect. They do a lot of sports things, and it's like, man, what if you like tried to do one of those things and whatever constraints you have, like that could be really fun. But just learning things together, it is again, it goes back to that watch and talk sort of thing.
Yep. Last one, I think YouTube it's cool to see on YouTube the creativity of what's going on. And I think YouTube, like the reality is that we have a God who has created our universe. He is creative in who he is, and he's created us in his image. We're
Yep.
drawn to things that are creative,
Yep.
and we like to be creators ourselves.
Yes, 100%.
And so I think YouTube is a great place to learn, to see how creative people are.
Yeah.
Like this is so today I saw a YouTube video. A guy bought everything he saw on his Instagram ad feed for a week. And I was like, that is like a creative and crazy idea.
Yes.
I was like, click.
Right. That's hilarious.
But man, there's all sorts of just create, and then your students too might want to create videos, and it's a
Yeah.
creative outlet for them. I
Yes.
actually, these are not released, but during COVID, when we weren't doing youth group and I wasn't teaching, I created 3-minute sermons through Colossians.
You did not.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah, I
This
made it
is
through
funny.
like chapter 1. I
This
didn't
is
make
awesome.
it far, but it was just it was an outlet for me to
Yeah.
keep the teaching chops going.
Right.
When I wasn't doing any teaching for like 3 months.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
anyway, you and your students might I would fan that into flame. Like they might want to use that as a creative outlet or just enjoy it. So I
Yeah.
think that's cool too.
I love that. That's great.
Anything else, Josh?
I think that's it.
All right. Have fun on YouTube. It's a cool place. We hope this is encouraging, enlightening in some way. We'll catch you next week on the Couch Time Podcast. Peace.
See ya. Hey, thanks for watching.
You can follow us on Instagram at the Couch Time Podcast.
Let us know what you thought about the podcast. Also, let us know if there's any topics or things you'd like us to cover. You can comment and email us at podcast@graceky.org.
Please like, subscribe, and share the video with other parents.